She's forever known for her iconic role as Jennifer, but she was also the lead in the TV version of Fast Times. Remember that one? As well as roles in Herbie the Love Bug TV series and Babies Having Babies. She currently runs the high-end men's retail clothing store, Armani Wells, and is a frequent guest at Wizard World conventions. Here is the great Claudia Wells.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back, Claudia.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Jerry.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you once again. It's been a few months here since we've seen you at the last Wizard World show, but it's great to have you back.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. I love all of you guys.
With 80 credits spanning 60 years, you've seen him in huge films like WarGames, Top Gun, and the Amityville Horror, hit TV series like Miami Vice, Remington, Steele, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and The Wonder Years, and many other shows. He's appeared in all three of the Back to the Future films, as well as the antagonist teacher, Mr. Strickland, and of course, his grandfather in number 3. Say hello to James Tolkan.
Hey.
James, welcome to it. Look at you, all fancy.
Hackers of the world unite.
You look beautiful, James.
Pardon me?
You're so handsome.
Oh, well, hardly. Me.
And I like your glasses. I've never seen those.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Well, you guys look fabulous, and we're so excited to have you here as part of our Wizard World virtual experiences. We've done, I think we're in the 115, 120 or so of these, and this for me is exciting because this trilogy, this whole series, Back to the Future, it's 35 years since it came out, but it still has this appeal. What has being in the Back to the Future meant to you guys individually?
It's been an amazing 30-some years of doing shows and residuals, and it's been amazing. Really, can't believe it. 30-some years ago, here we still are talking about it. How many films have had that experience?
I'm with James. It's a part of my absolute daily life today. And it's just extraordinary that because of the film and everyone's love for the film, I feel like I have friends all over the world and support and kindness and love. Whether they're loving Jennifer Parker or me because I'm Jennifer Parker, it doesn't even matter. It's like this shared camaraderie everywhere. And then I get to have best buddies like James and other cast members from it. And it's, it's a miracle that I got to do that film. I got down to me and one or two other girls for Gremlins, Goonies, Young Sherlock Holmes, even Adventures of Babysitting. And the fact that I got Back to the Future, I think is the greatest blessing ever. One of them.
You mentioned all over the world. We poll everyone in the chat rooms to ask where they're from. You ready? Virginia, Tennessee, Israel, Salt Lake, the Bay Area, UK, Illinois, Philly, Wisconsin, Chicago, Sweden, Plainfield, Illinois, South Wales. I mean, this is crazy. There are people all over the world watching us right now, which is amazing.
That's awesome.
But basically, I'm a New York actor, a stage actor. And I said I was never going to go to Hollywood until Hollywood sent for me. And I got this call from Robert Zemeckis to do Back to the Future. And I said, who's he? And I said, well, okay, we'll find out. I'll go out there and have the Hollywood experience. And I think I'm the only actor in the cast who never had an audition. He just hired me from things he's seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, James.
Yeah. What?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
So we have some questions already from fans. We had some before we even started the panel, as soon as we started the chat room. So we appreciate everyone joining in. Shahar Matthews asks, when you guys filmed the movie, did you ever think what the future would look like? And how do you think it compares to what you thought it would look like when you filmed the movie?
Well, I'm sure we both have something to say about that. When we did this movie, it was not a big deal. I think Goonies was more important to Steven Spielberg at that time, but no one knew. But all the planets were aligned, and this became this great success that it is.
I know that that's true what James said. I don't think any of us had any clue. For me, I was just ecstatic to be in a Steven Spielberg film. But after the fact of doing it never really occurred to me except for, oh, if I'm not good, I'm going to be huge not good every 2 hours in the theaters. But I never really considered how well the film would do.
You couldn't be not good.
I never really compared life then to the future based on the film, but it completely boggles my mind how much they predicted and prophesized that actually occurred. Blows my mind.
Now, both of your characters, I think, really tie the story. They're important. They tie the story together. Jennifer is a main reason why he wants to get back to 1985. And Mr. Strickland is the same jerk in 1955 that he was in 1985. What do you guys think of the characters and how important your individual characters are to the role, or to the film in general?
Look, the way they were written, they were beautifully written, and they were there for a purpose. And when you see the movie, it speaks for itself. Slackers of the world, unite. That's a joke.
Did he ever have hair?
Right.
I loved being Jennifer, and she was so similar to me as a human being. And, I did all kinds of character work, knew her background, knew her grades, knew where she lived. I knew her parents. It just all came so naturally to me. It was, and I love that people care about Jennifer so much, even though I was in, like, some people are like, well, you're in 5 minutes of the film, but the fact that it gets to be still so significant to people's hearts, I'm just crazy about that.
Another question from a fan in a similar vein. Christopher asks, what did you expect the film to be while you were making it? I mean, you're making this film and then you see it in theaters. Were there surprises for you, or did you kind of, when the movie came out, okay, that's what I thought it would be?
No, I think that it was a complete surprise. It was just sort of another movie, and when it opened, it was amazing the way it was, the response to this picture. And here we are still talking about it these many years later.
I'm with
you. Say.
I agree with you. I had no idea what it would be until I actually saw it. And I mean, one of my favorite parts, which is so silly, is when the whole screen filled with the back of the clock tower flyer. And I was like, it's my handwriting. My handwriting is filling the screen. So that was like, for me, total awe and excitement. But no, the whole movie was completely, it was like me watching the film having not ever read the script. It was that cool. There it is.
We've got it. We've got your handwriting in there. And I know that at the shows, Claudia, you like to sign the backs of sheets of those flyers. You've got one. She's going to have one. So the great thing when Claudia's at the show has the flyers.
I got them right here. And when people order them, I sign the back just like I did in the movie. And I love doing that. My handwriting, and I wrote it so quickly that every time I write it now, it pretty much looks exactly the same.
So why did they use your handwriting and not an extra, or have someone already use it? Was there any story behind that?
Yeah. First of all, I didn't know they were going to use my handwriting. So when I'm in the scene with Marty and I started to actually write the whole thing, Bob Zemeckis was like, you're taking a little too much time. Just put a T and then go to him. So if anyone wonders how I wrote so quickly, it's because I didn't. And then I think it was a script supervisor who came up to me with like a piece of paper on a clipboard and a little note on top, and she goes, write that. So I wrote it, and that was that on that. No one told me that what I had written so quickly, because she told me to, was to end up on the whole screen. So that was a great surprise for me because, I learned script when I was in the second grade. I've never learned how to write block letters. I always wrote script. So I hope my second grade teacher saw it.
Well, we have a lot more questions and comments from folks. We have a gentleman from Romania who's checked it, or a young lady, Alicia from Romania. So thank you. Gareth Ross from UK asking a question about rewatching the series, which is something you kind of brought up already. And Eric S. wants to say to Claudia that he had a crush on you when he was a teen watching the movie. And if he knew in 2020 that he'd be watching you on a stream on your phone, he'd be like, coming out of the future. So we've done some future things already here. So that was great of Eric. Thank you so much, Eric, for that comment. James, I have a question for you. But before Back to the Future, you were in WarGames with Matthew Broderick, one of my favorite movies, and I love your scenes in that. And then right after, you were in Top Gun with Tom Cruise. So, between those three, with Michael J. Fox in the mix there, who did you enjoy working with the most out of those three? And what was your best connection, you think, with those three?
Oh, I think Back to the Future was the most fun for me. It was such a surprise. Michael J. Fox was so amazing. Claudia, the whole cast. I mean, it was very special. Top Gun was interesting. The difference is Top Gun, we knew right from the beginning Top Gun was going to be a hit. About Back to the Future, we had no idea what it would be. So it was an amazing surprise, a wonderful surprise. And as I said before, here we are still talking about it. And Top Gun is still doing well, but Back to the Future seems to be number one.
Yeah, I think...
I loved you so much in Top Gun. I just thought you were the greatest and you should have been nominated for an Academy Award.
Oh, God. Claudia, I told you before, I would like every scene I did in Top Gun, I would like to do over again.
Oh, no. That's just you being part of
That's how I feel,
You were genius and brilliant in that. And I always tell you the truth.
My best work has been in the theater, not in movies, but I really enjoyed Hollywood.
So Benedict Sloan has a question for you, James. It's about this scene behind me here. He wants to know if you ever found it hard to keep a straight face. I guess for you, Claudia, as well, filming these scenes with Michael J. Fox in the school corridor and trying to be the tough guy with him.
Well, no, it was not difficult keeping a straight face. It was very enjoyable, but it was not laughable. And of course, when we're filming, it's all quite serious.
I remember when Bob Z said to you, for you and Michael to touch noses. I remember that exact moment. And then I remember I was squeezing Marty's hand because I felt so bad for him getting in trouble. And I didn't find any of it difficult. I was just actually living it every moment.
And there you are, kind of peeking around the corner.
Was it possible to keep a straight face, Claudia?
Possible.
Okay, right.
Gareth Ross has a question for Claudia. What was it like to reprise the role in the video games? And was the voice acting, how was that for you, reenacting, this classic character years later?
I was so honored. It's funny because at the 25th reunion party, as I was leaving, I heard this, Claudia. And I turned around and it was AJ. And he said, my name's AJ and I'm going to be doing Marty in the Back to the Future video games. And I was like, what video games? And he said, the ones that we're about to do. And I said, tell them I want to be Jennifer. And he's like, okay. I said, no, promise me you'll tell them. So it turns out, I don't know why, they thought I wouldn't be interested. So they didn't approach me until they heard that from AJ. For me to be able to be Jennifer again after not being Jennifer in two of the movies was such an amazing experience and a different version of Jennifer. I adored it. And it was fun hanging out with Chris because we would both kind of, I'd go in and he'd come later. So we'd hang out together in between things. And I never got to see it because I can't figure out computers and I couldn't remember the password and all that. But I hear that people really liked it.
Now, James, you weren't in those, but you were in number 2 and number 3. How was being in those compared to the original for you?
Well, it was a continuation of the character, obviously. People always ask me, which was your favorite, number one, number two, or number three? I personally like number two because it was so nuts, so absolutely crazy with Principal Strickland with the shotgun and all that stuff. I thought it was insane and wonderful.
Natalie Labine has a question for both of you. If you could go back in time, where would you go? Which decade would you go back to, just in life?
Oh my goodness, that's such a serious question. It requires thought. All I know is I would rather go back in time than into the future, because I think the future does not look very bright from my point of view.
Every year that I live, I'm like, oof, I don't want to go back and do that again. I'm so glad I'm now and into the future.
No, but if you went back, you would not have to do that again. You would do it right this time.
That's true. I think I went to such strict elementary schools and 3 hours of homework a night that every grade I went through, I was like, I am so glad I don't have to do the 6th grade again or the 7th grade again. So that's kind of where that came from. If I could go back anywhere, I've 2 ones. My first, I definitely want to go back and hang out with Jesus. No question. I want to be one of those people sitting at his feet, listening to him do his parables and watching all of that. My second one would be, I would love to see, like in the movie, my dad and my mom when they were younger or when they were married. Because I come from a divorce when I was about 1 or less. So I never experienced both of them in the house. But if I could be a fly on the wall of, when they met and that whole thing, that'd be cool.
Right now, there's a sign come up that says, this Mac can't connect to cloud because of a problem with Parmalee Roadrunner.com.
We see you just fine. We hear you just fine. There are no problems here with Roadrunner or otherwise, or the Acme. We'll call Acme. We'll get something for them to fix it.
Okay.
You look great. So it's all good. It's all good. So we have a question, just actually a funny note from that. Claudia, you mentioned going back to Jesus. In the movie, they go back. He puts December 25th, 0000 as a date. Right before he puts November of 1955, he puts in Jesus. So you've referred to the movie.
I didn't even know that.
There's a one little scene when he does that. It's very funny. It's a funny.
What's that? 1, 2, or 3?
In 1, right before he puts in the date for 1955, he says we can go back to any event we want, and he puts in 1776, and then he puts in let's go to the birth of Jesus. And he puts December 25th, 0000, which I think is a funny little scene.
Great minds think alike.
Very cute. Linda Madrigal would like to know what working with Christopher Lloyd has been like and was like in this movie for both of you.
Well, Christopher Lloyd, he's a terrific actor. I worked with him in New York. We did Macbeth at Lincoln Center together. And that's where I first knew him. And he was wonderful back then. And it was no surprise to see him doing this very eccentric character, which is his specialty, actually.
And Claudia?
I loved working with him, and I found him to be very shy and understated, quiet. So when he talked to me, I felt so honored, because you know how when someone doesn't feel obligated to have chit chat, when they do say something, you're like, wow, I got to listen carefully. And for some odd reason, and I never saw him out of makeup. So when I've seen him over the years, I've always thought, even now, wow, you look so young, because I'd only seen him as the older Doc Brown. And then I don't know, it was like a year or years later, I realized, he's my favorite character from Taxi. How could I have not realized that? Mm-hmm. So it's a continuing, growing thing. And he's just, I love being his friend. He's just a great guy, really great guy.
You can see a little bit of Jim Ignatowski in Doc Brown also in a couple of the scenes. The way he does the mannerisms are the same. He's definitely brings that to this movie, no doubt. It's a few years after Taxi.
Yeah. But James is my best buddy. Always has been, always will be.
Want to remind everyone that you'll have the opportunity a week from today, if you're watching it live or if you're watching it during the week, it's on the 27th, to get these live video chats that we'll be doing with these folks. You can go to wizardworldvirtual.com for those, also for the autographs, also for the recorded videos. So go to Wizard World Virtual for that and for the schedule for the upcoming events that we have going on. Another question is, talk about Lea Thompson on set. Working with her, how is that interaction? And she's certainly grown to do so many roles since then, but this was one of her first big roles as well.
Well, Lea is a beautiful actress, and to work with her is a pleasure. Now, I'm not aware of everything she's done, but every time we do an appearance together, she's just absolutely wonderful.
I never met Lea I met Lea at the premiere for the first time. In fact, I met Goldie Wilson for the first time at the 25th anniversary party. So I know Lea as like a friend now, especially from all the shows. And she lives near my store, and I see her sister at the mailbox place. So I think Lea is a real extraordinary woman. Besides being a great actress, as a human being, she's a really good girl. She's an awesome person. So I'm grateful to be her friend.
Eric Stead, another fan, has a question about the set. He'd like to know what it was like walking around that set during filming, the clock tower, the town square. Is there something, you have a favorite part of that set? That must have been neat, according to Eric, and I agree with him.
Okay. Well, Claudia, what about it?
I was astounded how real it was when I was walking around the clock tower, especially when Marty and I were doing the scene, because it was a very long scene from walking behind the tree all the way to the bench. That was all one take. And watching the aerobics class and the guys at Texaco washing the car and the 4x4 driving by, it was all so real. And I would sometimes walk behind the sets to see how three-dimensional it really was. But I felt like I could have just had a picnic there and hung out for a week.
Well, Claudia, you said how real. In a way, to me, it was surreal. I mean, the sets were so amazing. Every time I walked into a set, I was like, how did this get here? How did this happen? And especially when we did out west and we were shooting out there. It's really beautifully done.
So Jeannie 4 has a question related to that. She wants to know if you ever had a chance to visit the Back to the Future attraction at Universal Studios, which incorporates some of these elements. Have you ever been to that? And how did you feel if you were?
The game, the ride? Are you talking about?
They had the attraction at Universal Studios that's a Back to the Future.
It's not anything that I experienced, so I have no idea.
Me neither. I know I did the ride with my son, and it was super fun. And by the way, the Simpsons ride that they did afterwards is literally the same ride. They just switched the sets.
Right, the set is there too, apparently, and the ride is part of it. So that would remind you, if you ever get to do that, I guess it may give you a little flashback to what that was, which is neat. You mentioned this a little bit already, but maybe we can drill down a little deeper. Colin McVicker wants to just know how much fun it was for you guys to work with Michael J. Fox. Just how much fun was having him on the set and being part of the movie. Well,
Michael J. Fox, he almost didn't do the movie, he was so relaxed and so easy, and he's the easiest actor I've ever been around to work with. And he made it a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. He was positive. He was kind. He was sweet. He's ridiculously talented. I mean, what he did with every line was just extraordinary. And it was such a beautiful way to work with each other. I mean, he was just I felt like he was just always right here with me. And I did the photos with Eric Stoltz when he was cast. They were supposed to be in his wallet, and we hung out a bit to get to know each other. But I never filmed with him. Michael, I just think he's the cat's meow.
James, did you film any scenes with Eric, or were all those doc scenes that were filmed before he left?
I think I did do some scenes with him, but it's all kind of a blank because so much has happened since then. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. The other prominent person on set that we can talk about is Steven Spielberg. So I know, James, you had brought up earlier that you thought that Goonies might have been higher on his role there, but when you see this movie and you see the detail and you see the little things, how was working with him on this?
Well, I don't give much credit to Steven Spielberg. I give all the credit to Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. They were the guys in charge here on this picture.
That's completely true. I met Steven. We hung out for about 2.5 hours at my audition. And it was just him and asking me questions and me saying, you have to not tell my mom if I ask this question. And I was with the guy who was on his 11th callback for Marty, who ended up being the drummer. So that was my experience with Steven. I only had one audition for Back to the Future because they just didn't cast me so many times. But on set, I think I might have seen him once at lunch. I'm with James. I mean, thank God for Steven Spielberg and Amblin. And I adored my time with him. But it was Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis who ruled. And I'm so grateful to both of them. I'm always sending Bob Gale emails that are thank you notes. I'm like, thank you. I just got to go to Brussels because you cast me. Thank you. I just got to go to the south of France and stay in a castle. Thank you for casting me. I mean, for years.
What were some of the things that the Bobs did that made the movie so special that you think were integral to making the movie what it was?
That who did?
Both the Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale.
Well, it started with the writing, of course, and they were so specific in the writing, defining the characters. And Zemeckis was a wonderful director. He made it very simple. He was never complex. He had all the shots set up before we started, and he made it easy. Made it easy for us.
I agree with James. Bob Zemeckis was very specific. Start there, walk there, get up here, look at each other, look at the clock tower, look back at each other. I mean, in terms of directing, he did direct. And he had a vision before we did each scene of what exactly it would be. Him and Dean Cundy were like extraordinary to me. And Bob Gale, I mean, I think they shopped around this movie for 10, 15 years? And they just kept at it. I mean, I was a kid. I never could have been Jennifer unless it had taken that long. I think that they're both some of the greatest men there are. And Bob Gale is the most direct, honest, straight up man I've almost ever met. I adore that about him. If he says it, he means it.
So Kimbra Hamilton Lozano wants to know what scene was the most challenging for each of you to film and why.
Oh.
And James, you have the 3 movies to pull that from. You can pull from any of those.
I know it's so, but I have to run all those films through my brain and kind of come to a decision about which the most challenging. I guess it must have been something in the first movie because that was we were a little insecure or not sure what's going on. Yeah, I think it was my first scenes with what I have to call Michael J. Fox. Your father was a slacker and you're a slacker and all that stuff. That was a bit challenging. But Zemeckis, he pressed the right button for me and I let him have it.
Claudia, for you?
The hallway scene? The hallway tardy slip scene? Is that the scene you're talking about, James?
Yes, that's the scene I'm talking of.
Oh, that's exciting. You sure didn't look like it was challenging. You seemed like it was a piece of cake.
You're an actor. You don't show it.
That's right. Mine probably was the long scene with Marty, just because it was one long take. So we had to do it a bunch of times, because if the aerobics people weren't exactly right, we had to do it again. If the truck didn't go by exactly right, we had to do it again. So every single thing in that entire town had to be on point, because Bob Z is so awesome. Though I liked it each time, so it wasn't exactly challenging. It was just a lot. But I mean, I got to kiss Marty 26 times because we did so many takes. Who's going to complain about that?
Acting is challenging. You show up on the set and it's challenging every time, right from the beginning.
I don't think Marty was complaining about that one either. So Winter Repose asks, how did it feel in 2015? You're reliving the series, and you guys predicted the Cubs winning the World Series and Florida having a team. How did that make you feel? Or other predictions that might have come true that you talked about?
I think it's so cool if we had put bets on some of this stuff and said, like, in these 3 years, the Cubs will win. I mean, we'd be gazillionaires. Wouldn't we, James? What if we put like $1,000 bet on that? We'd have made a fortune. I see your kitty cat.
Hey, we made a fortune anyway.
That's true. And still do. It's just
That's right.
all the time.
You needed the almanac that Biff had in the second movie, and you could have gone back and just
there you go.
Get all the money that Biff did.
You want to hear something funny? Can I interrupt for a second?
Please.
Okay, so you know when the hoverboard thing, they were looking like it was really working, and they had invented an actual hoverboard? So I saw that, and I emailed Bob Gale, and I said, "Oh, Bob, can you believe it? The hoverboard works now. Did you see that?" And he's like, "Claudia, seriously, did you believe that?" I'm like, "Yep."
That's funny. A lot of talk here in all the platforms, and maybe you guys can comment on this. They want to know, I know the way 3 ends, it's kind of an end, but do you know if there were ever talks about a number 4, Back to the Future 4, or was it always this will be 3 and it's ending with the, I don't want to be a spoiler, but with the train destroying the
Well, there's always talk about 3. Some people are going to do it at part 4. No, we've done it. It's done. 1, 2, and 3, please. We're quite happy with that.
Yeah, Bob Gale's always been very adamant about there is no Back to the Future 4. And I was doing a Q&A once with Christopher Lloyd at this theater where they had shown Back to the Future. And one of the guys in the audience is the one who did Broke Back to the Future, that video that was like viral for a while. And Chris looked at him and goes, "That's Back to the Future 4 because it's not going to happen otherwise." Everyone says no.
Jorge Vieira has a question about other roles and how this film involved that. But Claudia, I wanted to ask something similar. You were in 2 TV shows that were adapted from very popular movies, Herbie the Love Bug and Fast Times. How do you think the success of those films affected the TV shows? And then do you think there should have been a Back to the Future TV show that you guys would have been in?
Oh, that's a great question. Of course there should be a Back to the Future TV show, and I wouldn't be in it. But in terms of, it's interesting actually, because Fast Times at Ridgemont High, when they made Fast Times, I was Phoebe Cates' role, Linda Barrett. Adventures of Babysitting was down to me, Phoebe Cates, and Elizabeth Shue.
Isn't that something? How about the tie-in there?
Gremlins was down to me and Phoebe Cates, and I think one other girl. In fact, James, I either screen test or got to the end for WarGames. So we almost together twice.
You would have been good in WarGames. That would have been a good role for you.
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many 80s movies I almost got the lead role in, but I out of all of them, I'm like Back to the Future or nothing. I loved doing Herbie the Love Bug because Dean Jones was such a special part of my life. And his wife was such a special part of my life. And Herbie is one of the first car I ever drove. So there was one scene where he's giving me a driving lesson and there was this guy in the back doing the wheels and everything. I always thought of him as like this little guy, but I'm in the front and I think I had access to just the gas and I accidentally pressed it. I didn't know how to drive. And I remember we almost hit these big Klieg lights and Dean's like, stop, brake, it's on the left. So that was funny. I loved Gene with all my heart, Dean and his wife, Lori.
Yeah, those are that whole series of movies is fun, and those bring us back the original ones from the 60s, and then they revived the series right before the TV series, which was great.
Oh, plus I get to be a car girl twice because I'm the DeLorean car girl and I'm the Herbie car girl, so that's cool.
Eric Stead has a question, and he only sees the one cat there, but we know that Claudia has some cats too. James, what's the cat's name back there?
That cat is Olive.
Olive. And Claudia, what are your cats' names that we can't see?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What are their names?
Okay, I have Goldie. He's the mountain lion. He just turned a year in April.
Is he mayor of your house, Goldie?
He's the male figure of my house. No question. The rest of us are all girls.
Mayor Goldie Wilson, yes.
Oreo, she's shy and she's quite lovely and sensitive. And then we've got Toofy, who's 18 years old last week, according to the happy birthday card I got from the vet. And they were all like abandoned babies. I bottle fed Goldie and Oreo every 3 hours for the first month. And I had friends come in when I had to go to work. I mean, I'm literally their mom of all of them. Because Toofy, I think she was like a little teeny hairball when we got her. I don't know what I would have done without them during the whole COVID quarantine, because we were a 4-person family. We always are. And 3 cat, 1 person, but they're like people. I love them.
And James, there's a second cat there I missed. What's the second cat's name?
That's what's his name again? That's my cat.
Call him Marty. That'll be good. We got 2. We have a 5-cat, 2-person show. So all right, we know the movie had a lot of cool. The movie had a lot of cool props and a lot of cool things. Paul Horick wants to know if you guys kept anything. I think the statute of limitations is up. Did you guys keep anything from the set, and what did you keep?
I have kept nothing from the set. I guess maybe I should have, but I just did the movie and went my way.
I was actually going through things. My mother saved everything. I found a Back to the Future, like the cardboard thing that said Back to the Future. It was either on my trailer or Honey Wagon. I think it was on the Honey Wagon. Or we swiped it. And then my mom saved all the newspaper clippings from when the film came out, when it was sneak preview, all the reviews, how much money it was making. I found all that stuff about a month ago. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't like from the actual set. That was a byproduct. But the Back to the thing was from the actual set.
I have another comment from Star Jang. Star just wanted to say he's a big fan watching today from New Orleans and wants to know if there's something that happened on set that you'll never forget. It was funny, it was scary, anything, just something you'll never forget from filming.
I'm going second.
What did you say?
Just anything that you'll never forget from this film. From filming,
I try to come up with something, but it's just the entire experience is what I can never forget, and being cast in the movie. That's about it.
That's a great answer, Claudia.
For me, my very first scene was the last scene of the movie, And it was a new experience for me because I'd always done a lot of television where we do like 10 pages in a day. And for the first time ever, I'm doing 1 page maybe in a day. And when Doc Brown got out of the car for the very first time, and he had his black or his metal sunglasses, and he went, "Marty, Marty." And when he lifted them up, his whole forehead went with them. So we were of, the aging makeup. So we had to stop for like 3 hours for him to get his makeup back on. And that was my kind of first experience of so much downtime on any project. And I was like, should I be doing something? It's like homework. So I had to learn to just go with the flow. It doesn't have to be so fast. That was a new experience for me. But I'm like James. I mean, every single part of it was an honor, real honor.
Yeah, that's a great memory. And for all of us who've loved the trilogy, starting with the first one and even going right on through it, this has been a special time for, I know, a lot of the fans who've been commenting in the chat rooms. This has been one of our really popular chats. So we really appreciate you guys being with us. Any last words you want to say just to fans? Talk about anything that you've got going. The floor is yours. James, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I'm enjoying the good life up here in Lake Placid. That's for the moment, and I'm grateful for the fact that we're here today and we're still talking about Back to the Future all these many years, 30-some years, and to be on this program is quite a new experience for me. And I want to thank you, Jerry, for handling this so very well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to hear that.
35 years. 35 years.
Okay.
I'm with James. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And I love doing this with you, Jerry, and being in the family of Wizard World. I mean, that's just like, for me, a great thing. I adore all of you very much. And it boggles my mind, the opportunities that are brought because of being Jennifer. It's, I did a lot of, I'm in the whole thing shows, and there's nothing can compare to having been in Back to the Future and how it affects my daily life and how kind all the fans everywhere are. I feel like everyone's my friend. And I mean, people painting pictures of Jennifer, and when my store was open all the time to the public, I had fans every single week from all over the world coming to visit. And you always recognize them when they come in because there's just a special little glow. In terms of saying something that hasn't been said, there's a charity I'm a founding board member of, as well as a current ambassador. It's called Kids in the Spotlight. And we completely changed the lives of underserved and foster kids. So to learn more about it, go to kidsinthespotlight.org. We're 10 years old, and I'm so grateful to be involved in something that really affects foster kids and underserved youth's lives. So I would love for people to look into that. And then on all the sites, I'm at the Claudia Wells. So if you look at other ones, it's not actually me.
Only the Claudia Wells is you. We believe that. I know, James, you're not on social media, but there is an opportunity, of course, for fans to get those live video chats that we're doing a week from today. If you're watching this live, or Sunday the 27th will be the date, 4:00 Eastern, 1:00 Pacific. So anytime up until then, you can still go to wizardworldvirtual.com and look over the offerings and purchase those. We have the autographs and the recorded videos that these two will do for you as well. Those are great keepsakes and great memories. So it's been a pleasure to see both of you here. I know the fans have enjoyed this thoroughly. James, Tolkan, Claudia Wells, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'm Jerry Milani. Thanks for joining us on Wizard World Virtual Experiences. We'll see you soon.
Hi, this is Aaron Ashmore, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe like now. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.